Welcome to part 3 of our level design tutorials. We're going to start working with sprites now. Sprites are objects which you can place anywhere in the map. There are sprites of many kinds. Some are decorative, like the crash cans and graffiti. Some are interactive like the items and enemies. Some are special sprites, made to create certain effects in the level, and are invisible during gameplay. We are going to place our first sprites here in the map, and know their different kinds. Pressing the S key on the floor or ceiling, will insert a new sprite in the map. You can do this in 2D and 3D mode. The sprite inserted will be the most used in the map. In this case we are seeing another instance of the light sprite we placed outside on the first tutorial. Since it's the only sprite we had in the map, pressing the S key will create another one of these. Sprites have basic properties which we can change, with the R key, in 2D and 3D mode. View aligned, which means the sprite will always face you, the player. While aligned, the sprite always faces in one direction. These are usually the ones that go against a wall, like graffitis, keypads and miscellaneous decoration. While aligned sprites can have two sides visible or be only one-sided. This is done by pressing the 1 key on it. For wall decorations it's good practice to make the sprites one-sided. Of course, if the sprite is a fence or glass, it should be two-sided. Next, we have floor-aligned sprites. These will lie flat on the ground or ceiling, or just floating there. Just like wall-aligned sprites, these also have the property of being one-sided or two-sided. Remember, sprites can also be blocking or non-blocking, and have hit scan blocking if you want them to stop bullets and projectiles. There's another property which is very important, and it's the transparency. Press T on a sprite, no matter its alignment, and it will have transparency level 1, if you press the T key again on it, it will have transparency level 2. Pressing the T key one more time will bring it back to normal, full opacity. Let's continue improving our basic map a bit more. We're going to create a few alternate routes. Here I'm going to create a classic in any build engine game, a ventilation shaft. We add the necessary points to the wall, and start constructing our vent. Let's try to make it fit this size of grid, to save time later, when texturing. As soon as we divide the tunnel sector, and the vent sector, the slope on the tunnel changes. That's because creating a new sector or adding new walls, usually changes the first wall of the sectors. We fix this by pressing Alt+F to set the first wall of this sector again. Now our vent sector has a slope that we don't need. We can make the ceiling turn to its standard property by pressing /. This will turn the slope to 0, completely flat. We try to make sure that the height of the ventilation shaft is accessible by jumping into it. It's very important in vents to make the wall textures fit with the floor and ceiling ones. If you align one wall properly, you can align the rest automatically. Let me show you how. Copy-pasting the alignment usually works, but you want to make sure, by pressing either dot or comma keys. This will align the textures of all adjacent walls, on the right or the left. When we created our vent, we divided this wall textures and it became misaligned. We are going to fix it now. It seems there is no way to make it fit, right? We can go around this by pressing the O key. This changes the orientation of the texture, to be either top or bottom oriented. Now the texture will fit when we try to fix it. If we respect the grid snapping, our vent texture will fit perfectly on floor, ceiling and walls. Let's add a room on the other side of the ventilation shaft. I'm going to show you an interesting way of creating a sector next to another sector. We can start drawing the room from one of the ventilation shaft sector ends, draw the room normally, and then add a point over the points of the vent. This will automatically create the division between both sectors with a red wall. Now let's add proper textures to our room. If we try to align adjacent walls when there's a division like the one from the vent, we have to press O key first on a normal wall, and then press the dot or comma key. So all adjacent walls will align and also change their orientation. We can decrease the visibility of a sector by pressing Alt plus minus or plus. This determines how far you can see in a dark environment. Sometimes it's necessary to change the shade of the walls instead of the visibility. If we want to change the shade of all walls at the same time, we select the entire sector first, and then in 3D mode, we shade down or up, aiming at any location of the room. Let's add a shadow inside of the ventilation shaft this way. Now this wouldn't be a proper vent, if we didn't add a grate. With the arrow keys we can change the size of any sprite. Make sure the grating is blocking by pressing B key on it, and make it hit scan so you can shoot it, pressing H key on it. To make sure it's blocking and hit scan, go to 2D mode to see how the sprite looks, should be purple and thicker than usual. Now, we are going to have some fun with this newly made room. It's best to make the grid smaller for finer geometry creation. It's time to connect the room with the outside, creating a set of windows. You can change the orientation of the textures with the F key. We are going to add glass to this window. For that, we need to divide the window sector in two. The middle wall will be our glass wall. Glass walls are made with mask walls. To create one, we need to lower the floor a bit, and aiming at the wall we press M. This creates a mask wall. It's an extra wall between the floor and ceiling. We select the glass texture and then add the desired transparency to it. We also need to make sure it's blocking and hit scan. This glass will be bulletproof. Now that we finished our window, we want to add another one. Do we need to do everything again? No. We can copy-paste the window. Let me show you how. First we click on a point that is connected to the longer wall of the window, to know its length. We see it's 1024. So we insert points on the wall that are 1024 units apart, on both the outside of the building and the inside of the room. Now we select the window with the sector selection. Remember, right Alt. Press the Insert key and a duplicate of our window will show up. We can move around our duplicate as we wish. Now move the duplicate to the points you created earlier. The 4 points have to coincide and match perfectly with the points of the window for this to work. If there's a perfect fit, press right Alt key again to release the selection, and the window will be already in place. Now let's detail the room a bit with some sprites. Forgot to make the grading two-sided. Let's fix that by pressing the 1 key on it. We can snap any wall-align sprite to the wall behind it by pressing the O key on it. Now we create a fake door on this room. Usually the proper height of the doors in the game is 4 Ctrl+Pgup. Let's add a light and create a fake light degradation on the floor. We create various sectors outside of the light source, and lower each sector's shade by 2 or 3 units each time. This concludes our third part of our basic level design tutorials. Please subscribe for more tutorials like these in the future. Thanks for watching.